Hi guys, welcome back to the Tactical Insight Show. Now it's just me on my own. Graham's not with me today as it's the international break. So it's Tactical Insight Light. I think that's what we're going to call it today. The whole point of this show is basically just to look back on Arsenal's upturn in form, what we've been doing since match day 3, since the arrivals of Tomiyasu, obviously Ben White getting regular game time, Aaron Ramsdale. They are 3 players we're going to focus on in particular, but we want to look at the bigger picture of Arsenal in those last 8 games, 8 Premier League games. Obviously we've seen the League Cup run, that's been very good as well. But yeah, for the next 10-15 minutes or so, we're going to be breaking down what Arsenal have been doing, how they've turned it around, and yeah, let's get straight into it. And I think there's no better place to start than looking at the results from that day. So let's have a little look at them here. We've got obviously opening with that win against Norwich at home, and I was there on the day. I remember the pressure that Mikel Arteta was under. Obviously we started with 3 defeats, no goals scored, 5 goals shipped at the Etihad. It was looking really bleak for Arsenal and Arsenal fans. A 1-0 win against Norwich was the start of a bit of a turnaround. Now, it could have been more on the day, but the important thing was we followed it up with more wins at Burnley with the 1-0 win. We were very defensively strong that day. Ramsdale commanding his area, Gabriel an absolute unit at the back. And then the big one that put us on 3 wins and 3 defeats, levelled it out a little bit, got us to 9 points and above Tottenham in the league after the start they had, was beating them in the North London derby, 3-0 up at half-time. What a performance that was. And then obviously we go to Brighton, pick up a point, probably didn't really deserve anything from the game, but we found a way to dig deep and make something for ourselves. And then we have an international break. We come back for Palace, 2-2, last minute equaliser. Lacazette saves us, and then that sparked another tactical tweet, which we're going to go into. We beat Villa at home, we beat Leicester away, and then we go and beat Watford 1-0 as well. So that's the run: 6 wins, 2 draws, and where's that left us? Let's look at the league table. 5th. And I've got to say, from where we were, I think we'd absolutely take that. 5th in the table, 6 wins, 2 draws, 3 defeats. Those 6 wins and 2 draws coming in our last 8. 20 points, and one of only 5 teams to have that number 2 digit at the front of our points tally. Obviously sitting in the 20s, we're on 20 points there, and Chelsea top on 26. Now, I know people don't like when we do this, but I think it is important to reflect our form, to have a little look at where that leaves us in the form table, let's say. And of course, we've put one of those together as well. If you look at the top 10 since match day 4, I know that's not how the Premier League works. We saw the tables after what was it, in 2021, or since we beat Chelsea 3-1 last season, this was our form. I know it doesn't count for a lot, but I think when it's this early in the season and we're only discounting the first 3 games, I think it tells you something about the form Arsenal are in compared to their rivals. We sit top of that table since match day 4 with 6 wins, 2 draws, the only undefeated team in those 8 games. A goal difference of 9. We've been a lot better at the back, and obviously Chelsea, Man City, the kind of names you expect to see up there. West Ham as well, and I think if we're to go for top 4, West Ham are one of those teams that we're going to be looking at to try and stop, overtake after they beat Liverpool. That's who we've got next. They're certainly going to be a real challenge. So let's go into why this has happened, why Arsenal have been able to turn it around. You could easily say, well, the new signings have come in and they've done well, but remember that a lot of people weren't happy with the transfer window we've had. So how's it all come together? I think you can look at what we've done defensively and going forward. It's not just been one thing. With the introduction of these players, they've contributed to Arsenal's overall game plan massively. Let's break it down by starting with the defence, and of course we're going to take it to the tactical pad. Now, I want to start with the press. The press is something that Graham's made a real point of in the Tactical Insight shows, and he's absolutely right to, because we've had to adopt it in slightly different ways. We've come up against different opposition, different formations. But what I've got here on screen is a formation that reflects the Villa and Leicester formations. I thought our 2 best performances in that run, in that 8-game run. I know obviously Spurs will be up there, and absolutely, but I thought we were better against Villa across the whole 90 minutes. And against Leicester, I think that was the toughest test. So I've got to give credit to the boys there. Now, what I've got here is the number 6, the right centre-back of this opposition. We're just calling them opposition. They're on the ball. And I think what Arsenal have done really well with the press as illustrated by Graham in previous shows, is finding a trigger, is knowing who receives the ball and when they're going to press that person and how that looks in the press. Now, we've got Arsenal in the 4-4-2, the formation that they've used in the last 3 games, the formation they ended with against Palace when we nicked a draw, probably played our best football in that game in the last 10 minutes when we brought Lacazette on up front. And what we've done in this formation is basically do very well to not only press man for man, but block spaces, block passing lanes, force teams to try and go long. I remember Leicester trying to go long to Iheanacho, Vardy, James Maddison, and it was bread and butter for Gabriel and Ben White. They were sweeping up really, really well. Let's play this through. So obviously we've got number 6 who's got the ball. When the ball is played into the number 4, that's the trigger. As he gets the ball, it was Johnny Evans at the time. Aubameyang goes to press, and it's about closing lanes. Smith Rowe able to come inside if he has to. Tavares pressing up as he does in his build-up as well. Stopping those obvious lanes, stopping the passes to wing-backs. Lacazette working incredibly hard, as is Aubameyang. Lokonga and Partey, the dynamism midfield. And you can only do this when you've got a back 4 like Tavares, Gabriel, White and Tomiyasu, who have immense pace. They have immense pace and recovery ability. They're able to get in behind. They're able to sweep up and make up for any errors from the press. They're able to just clean up when a team tries to go long. And I think that's a really big part of why Arsenal have been successful and looked a lot more cohesive in the press of late. But what I've really, really enjoyed about Arsenal is not just the ability to press and be on the front foot and take the game to teams like they did against Leicester. The other thing I've really liked is that when they have bypassed the press, our ability to drop into a low block to make it really condensed and difficult. Again, something we had to do against Leicester at times, something we had to do in that second half against Spurs. When the teams do bypass it, we've looked very, very organised. Now, what I'm going to show here is if the ball gets switched out to the fullback, sometimes they're going to pull that off. And you get a position where they've got up the pitch, the fullback, wingback, whoever's got forward. Arsenal have been able to drop into a press. You're going to see the players moving forward, Arsenal moving back. They have been able to drop back and make the spaces really, really tight. Again, that comes from organisation, but athleticism as well, discipline, being able to cover yards very, very quickly, going from one space to another very, very quickly. Thomas Partey against Burnley was often dropping into the back 5 to deal with the aerial threats. So we've been able to deal with different things teams have thrown at us really, really well. There was a worry that after the Brentford game, Ben White was going to appear perhaps a bit of a problem in the air. Hasn't been the case. He's actually done very well the last few games there. Tomiyasu, we know about him. We're going to talk about him as well in a bit. But Arsenal's defensive shape and discipline has been fantastic. I think it's been one of the where I still think there are holes going forward, and I still think there's a lot to improve on there, despite it looking a lot better. I do think defensively we have been absolutely fantastic, and a big part of that is the players we've got at the back, the shape, and also communication from the goalkeeper. That's all been a massive, massive plus. But with the introduction of shape and all these things have come the players as well. And that's why I want to touch on some of our three of our new signings I think have been absolutely superb. We're going to start with Tomiyasu, and I think this graphic tells you so much. Now, what I've done is I've basically had a little look at the percentile, the numbers, how he compares to other fullbacks in the league, and oh my word, are Tomiyasu's numbers impressive. And I think when you look at some of the stats and the data I've got here, it tells you where he's made a massive difference. Now, his percentile among Premier League fullbacks, basically putting him in the top 1, 2, 3% of fullbacks in the league for these particular stats, show you how good he's been. Ball recoveries, he's got pace, he's got athleticism, he's able to get back, he's got terrific reading of the game. He obviously, his percentile is 90. He's in the 99th percentile, which is incredibly impressive. Passes intercepted as well. Dribbled past. He's very rarely dribbled past. It's something we've seen. Wingers have really struggled to do anything against Tomiyasu because he's able to recover. Even if you knock the ball past him, he's able to get back and deal with it. Whenever the ball goes in behind, he's there to sweep up. Pass is blocked as well. You're not getting rounded very easily. He's a real unit, 6'2". And aerials one. I think that's one of the things that has really stood out to us Arsenal fans. He's winning his aerial duels. When people are trying to go long, and you know when teams go for the diagonal to try and almost gain aerial ground but pick on fullbacks who are typically smaller than centre-backs, and they're trying to get their way up the pitch, they're not able to do that either because Tomiyasu is dominating in that situation as well. Massive credit to him. He has been absolutely superb. Now, he's one of the three Tomiyasu is one of the three new signings that I really want to talk about. I think we need to talk about Ben White and Aaron Ramsdale as well. But in doing that, we've got to talk about what they're also contributing going forward. Because I think, yes, they've been terrific defensively, but it's what they've added to our build-up play, and that's what I really want to touch on. Before I go into the tactical pad and how our build-up players looked, let's look at their numbers as well, following on from Tomiyasu. Now, we've got Ben White here. Again, I'm looking at his percentile, how he ranks among other Premier League centre-backs. And you've got long passes completed. He's in the 80th percentile. He's in the top 20% of centre-backs for long passes completed. The ability to get from one end of the pitch to the other accurately, regularly, being able to bypass press, being able to bypass the opposition is a massive asset, and Ben White is giving us that. He also ranks incredibly highly for key passes, dribbles attempted, so when we are being pressed and the pass isn't on, he gets forward, he breaks the lines with his own ability on the ball. Now, I've got this as well, shot creating defensive actions. So these are defensive actions, whether it's a block, an interception, a tackle, a reading of the game up the pitch, that have led to Arsenal having a shot. That is called sustaining pressure. That is called your defenders stepping up, contributing to the press and allowing you to go again. And that has been a massive thing that he has brought. Again, 84th for his percentile, and then interceptions as well, 93rd percentile. It's been a massive thing. We can all see Ben White loves to get in front of his defender and maintain attacks. He's been absolutely superb at that. We've got to touch on Aaron Ramsdale as well, who's been nothing short of world class since he's gone in. Now, I'm not saying he's a world class goalkeeper, but his performances have been absolutely terrific. And again, we can look at things like crosses stopped, which I've got on this graphic, 78th percentile. That's a massive thing. We saw against Burnley how key he was in that area. We can look at his save percentage as well. He's been terrific, and we know the clean sheets. We looked at the results. He's been terrific in that area as well. But I want to look at these other things. Goal kick launch percentage. How many times is he going long? In fact, very regularly. And the reason he's doing that is because he's accurate and he's able, Arsenal are able to gain an advantage from going long before. It's not always passing out the back, which Arteta has managed to instill a very good system playing out the back with these players, but it's Ramsdale being able to go long, as we've seen with Ben White. There's also a massive difference. His average length of goal kick is very high as well. He ranks very highly for that amongst other goalkeepers in the league. A big thing, being able to get up the pitch, get into dangerous areas with one pass is key. But the other thing, and I've got that here as well, is the launch pass completion. He's not just going long, he's up there for how often he's completing these long passes. Now, sure, sometimes you're going to lose the header, sometimes you're not going to get there, sometimes you just, the other team just have 6'4" defenders, nothing you can do. But the accuracy to try and get it into players' feet has been a big thing. He's able to find Saka's feet when he knows he's not going to win the ball in the air, but a good first touch when we're away. We all remember that pass into Aubameyang, where he's saying to him, come more central, come more, get into that position, I will find you. And he pings one, almost a gliding low pass into Aubameyang's feet, and it was amazing. And that is what Ramsdale has brought to this team. And it's all made a massive difference to our build-up. Arsenal have used a couple different formations in the last few months, in the last 8 games, from a 4-3-3 to a 4-2-3-1 to now 4-4-2. Now, the key thing is here that Arsenal haven't, They haven't compromised. They haven't compromised on the principles and what they want to do and build up. They've just made little tweaks to the formation, to the personnel, to make it more effective in different games, but also allow us to be unpredictable, do different things, ask different questions of the opposition. That's what I've really enjoyed about Arsenal. Now, when people ask what Arteta's style of play is, the term, I believe, is juego de posición. Now, forgive me, Spanish-speaking people, if I've absolutely butchered your language, or I did study Spanish for a bit. And that essentially means positional play. It means players understanding where to be in certain, or it's almost like if you gridded out the football pitch into different grids and different zones and areas, it's all about players not being in the same vertical and horizontal zones when they take up their areas on the pitch. It's about being asymmetrical in our formation. It's about occupying different areas on the pitch that allow us to gain advantages in terms of a 3-on-2, a 4-on-3, developing overloads from the positions we pick up, receive the ball, and are able to move and transition. That's what positional play is all about, and Man City are one of the absolute best at doing it. Bayern Munich do it as well, and that's what Arteta's trying to instill in this Arsenal team. Now, if we look at how our build-ups looked, we'll take it to the tactical pad here in the 4-3-3. This is how he ended against Norwich. He ended with Odegaard and Smith Rowe either side of Thomas Partey. We get the goal. Brilliant. He stuck with this against Burnley, and at times he's tried it against Crystal Palace as well. It's not always worked, but the way it's looked with Bukayo Saka out on the left is this. We've moved it along. Essentially a back three and build up, Pepe keeping the width, Saka's having to come into a more central area, almost playing in that position we're seeing Smith Rowe play a lot more now. And the reason he does it is to allow Tierney to get on and Saka to receive the ball into areas where it's that half space, it's the number 10 space, it's trying to cause problems for the defenders. Is that the midfielder's man? Is it the defender's man? And what we saw against Norwich was that ball was fizzed in by Partey to Saka because he occupied that space. We got through because his strength, his tenacity, his skill gets him through, his drive. We score a goal against Norwich that way. Now, we've not kept at it forever. I don't think it's completely worked for Arsenal. I think they've had moments where it's looked okay. If we just move this back to the 4-3-3, and we're going to now make a change. Lokonga comes in for Pepe. Now, obviously, that means a formation change because Lokonga isn't playing out on the right wing. And this is where we've seen a real shift from the 4-3-3 to the 4-2-3-1. We saw this against Spurs, so it was Xhaka who came in. It wasn't Lokonga, it was Xhaka in that game. Who else we saw it against? We've seen it against Brighton. We played that formation, but Spurs was the big one. Now, if I just move this along, you see a real change in terms of roles for the individuals. Odegaard's now much more of a number 10 behind Aubameyang, really key to the press, getting forward. He actually started in that role against Norwich. Bukayo Saka's this time on the right. Smith Rowe's playing on the left where he played a lot of his good football last season. And Lokonga is alongside Thomas Partey. But again, if we put them into their positions on the ball when Ben White has it, it's not too dissimilar. Smith Rowe getting into that Bukayo Saka space, that half space coming in off the left, our left back here in Tierney bombing forward, Lokonga drifting out slightly to the left where Odegaard was picking up position before, and then you've got Odegaard and Saka holding the width there again. Tweaks, but not massively different. We've then seen since then, when we struggled against Crystal Palace, that 4-2-3-1, he didn't start with that in that game. He actually went back to the 4-3-3, but Lacazette came on. We also had the injury to Kieran Tierney, and Tavares came in and started against Aston Villa. And what we went for is a 4-4-2. So we bring these players in, Lacazette goes up front against Aubameyang, and we're thinking, oh my word, Arteta's done it. He's gone for the old school 4-4-2. You love to see it. This is vintage Arsenal. This is Invincibles Arsenal. Again, though, when you look at the positions that the players pick up, it's not overly dissimilar. We are still getting into very similar positions, and we move it along here, and this is the best way I can illustrate it. Ben White on the ball, Tavares getting forward, Smith Rowe coming inside, but this time it's Lacazette drifting almost to the right to be the link-up man with Bukayo Saka, and Tomiyasu drifting out into that back three, forming part of the build-up. And again, different formations, different personnel, slight different roles and tweaks to the way we're going about it, but the principles of positional play, the principles of the way we build up are exactly the same. And credit to Arteta for finding a style, implementing his way, implementing a philosophy that despite tweaks, despite positional differences, Arsenal are maintaining, and I think it's been key to the way we do things. Another thing I really want to touch on is culture. That's kind of my final section in this big thing. I want to talk about culture and what the other big thing I think has really contributed to Arsenal doing all this, because it all sounds nice on paper tactically, but you've got to have the players to do it. Now, the first thing we've basically seen is Arsenal's average age in players has dropped massively. I'll bring you to this graphic here. The Premier League average age, so the youngest teams in the Premier League, Brentford sit there at the top with an average age of 24 years. Leeds with 25, Arsenal 25.4, Norwich and Spurs behind. Arsenal have one of the youngest teams in the league, and that has come with the arrival of 6 players all under the age of 23. Ben White, Lokonga, Tomiyasu, Ramsdale, Odegaard, Tavares, all 23 and under, all in fact between 21 and 23, though have had a lot of experience in the game as well, despite their young, raw ages, and that's been a really big thing for Arsenal under Mikel Arteta. It's really been a big thing for Arsenal this season. You can't play a high press, you can't play this almost transitional football from high press to deep block, where players are working really hard. They're covering a lot of yards. I mean, I've seen the stats somewhere that Arsenal cover some of the highest yards in the league. And the reason they do that is because of the profile. Young age, sure, but also physically very talented. A very, how do I put it? Dynamic. A very dynamic 11 is going out there. You don't have players who are passengers who aren't great over short yards, who can't cover distances. Arsenal have addressed that with players like Lokonga coming in. And what I wanted to look at, as well as his Premier League average age, is some of the players who have come in and been regulars this season against regulars last season. Let's have a little look at the graphic. Project Youth, I've called it, obviously. Replacing regulars. Now, Bernd Leno at 28 years old. Aaron Ramsdale's come in, 23. Hector Bellerin, 25. Tomiyasu, 22. David Luiz at 33 has been replaced by Ben White at 24. Now, I know Granit Xhaka's injury and suspension have played a part, but Lokonga has been playing more regularly, so I'm sure Xhaka would be playing if he were here. But again, Lokonga coming in at 22 over Xhaka, who was 28 last season. And then, by the way, the reason I'm using these players, I'm looking at who was playing regularly last season. We saw Cedric came in, we saw Chambers came in for Bellerin, we saw Willian wasn't playing much last season. But this time a year ago, all these players were regulars. Smith Rowe coming on that left-hand side, or even on the right, depending where Willian was playing. Willian was 32. Smith Rowe has 11 years on him, and that's been a really, really big part, I think, of the culture change at Arsenal. Sure, dynamism in the team, sure, youth and exuberance and all that definitely plays a part in the way we're playing, but also building something for the future. These players getting really, really important, valuable game time, valuable experience right now. You know, right now, when they've got the best years to come, when they've got... And I smile because I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see what Smith Rowe is in 3-4 years' time. The leader that Ramsdale will develop into. We've seen some really, really great, kind of moments of togetherness from the camp. And winning breeds that. Playing favourable sides, a lot of them have sacked their managers, breeds that too. And this next test is Liverpool. And that is a massive test. Anfield, how will these players fare up against that? It's a big test, but I've got faith that this team can go out and give us... Teams can lose at Anfield. Teams can be brilliant and lose at Anfield. City were phenomenal at Anfield and were 1-0 and 2-1 down. That's what they can do to you. Only a couple of weeks ago, that was City. But it's about being competitive, taking the game to them and showing character. And I have all the faith that these players have that character. And I've now, for the first time in a long time, got faith that tactically we've got something in place. Player-wise, player profile-wise, we have something in place that can match the bigger clubs. Let's see. Let me know in the comment section if you think we can do it. This has been fun. It's been a shame. I wish Graham was here. I know we'd have so much amazing stuff to contribute to this. But we'll be back next week after the Liverpool game to break down, hopefully a win. Maybe a draw would be great. But, you know, we'll see. Hopefully a great performance either way and a real showing from Arsenal. Like, subscribe, get in the comment section. I want to chat about all this with you. Do you think we've turned the corner? Do you agree with some of my analysis on this? Have Arsenal... I don't know, gone into that new era? Are we a new Arsenal? Let's see. Tactically, data-wise, all that feels like we might have. Thanks very much. See you next time.